Good evening, you're welcome. This is The Link. My name is Malcolm Sime once again, and this evening we're talking matters tax. A little bit complicated, but we have someone who will simplify them, and he's a director, associate director tax at Ernst & Young, David Bariraine. This is The Link. Welcome back. Now, the new amendments, of taxes that were carried from the 2019, that will be taking effect on the 1st of July. Now, if you're in business or you're a taxpayer, you must know that with effect from 1st July 2019, these new taxes will take effect. That'll be about 2 weeks after the reading of the budget. You're very welcome, David, from Ernst & Young.
Thank you, Malcolm.
To The Link. First of all, the most itching proposal, I think, is or amendment on rental tax, or rental income. And it's been very controversial, and people are saying, will this pass? Won't it pass? Will it pass? Won't it pass? Generally saying that a lot of policymakers, would-be policymakers, are into the business of rentals, and so there's that controversy, and you've seen traders up in arms, complaining about rental tax. We've seen landlords. There's been a lot of controversy, and so government comes up with this proposal to make money, but will that solve the problem?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, viewers. As you have correctly observed, everybody seems to be investing in real estate, in rental property. From somebody who never went to school up to the very highly educated people, everybody is looking at investing in some sort of property. And so government is also looking at that as an area where they can collect revenue. Now, if you look at the amendment, it is talking about dealing with each rental property separately for tax purposes. So if you have 10 rental properties, each one will be looked at separately in terms of the revenue you get and the costs associated with that rental property. Unfortunately, the proposed amendment does not define what a rental property is. And already there is ambiguity we are seeing, and they will need to refine the bill to define what a rental property is. For example, if you have an acre of land with one land title, and then you put in there, say, 4 units, will each of those 4 units constitute a rental property for which you have to file a separate tax return? Or the 4 units sitting on one land title will be treated as one rental property? That is an area of ambiguity that needs to be addressed. And of course, it goes without saying that the cost of compliance for the taxpayers will be high. If you have multiple rental properties, that means you will have to file several tax returns, because you will have to file a return for each rental property. So that increases the cost of compliance on the part of the taxpayer. So the issues we are seeing is the ambiguity in terms of what constitutes a rental property, and the fact that the cost of compliance will be too high for people who own multiple properties. We do not see the rationale for having to deal with each property separately. Of course, the idea is that if one property is loss-making and another is profit-making, then the one that is profit-making, you will have to pay tax regardless of the losses you are making elsewhere. And that is certainly unfair, because you are one and the same person that owns several properties. Some are loss-making, others are profit-making. You should be able to offset your losses from the profit-making properties before you pay tax. But they are looking at each one separately just to maximize the collection.
David, this is a matter that is very close to the hearts of very many people, especially, okay, now two categories of people, landlords or people who own rentals, and then the tenants.
Yes.
How is this going to impact on the pockets of tenants who are already up in arms? If I am pushed hard to pay more tax out of rentals that you actually presume could be making losses, or there are things that are not clear in those clauses, how is that going to impact on tenants?
Of course, the most likely scenario, especially for landlords that do not really understand tax, is they will look at this as something they will have to pass down to the tenant. So probably we are likely to see rental charges going up. Because as I said, real estate is an area that is invested in by virtually everybody, from the one who never went to school up to the people with the PhDs. So somebody who doesn't know how the whole tax system operates will say, okay, if government wants tax, I have to put on top of what I've been charging tenants something on top that will then cater for the tax.
On the other hand, you also have to bear with government, because some people have been avoiding that tax. If you ask me, there are rentals where you just go and pay some 4 months or 6 months, and this guy never gives you a receipt. You've heard of those cases. So I think you are a government, maybe the tenants and the landlords have a role to play in making sure that everyone gets a fair share of the revenues that they're of obligations.
I do agree, and as one philosopher said, the art of taxation consists in so plucking the goose as to remove the most feathers with the least hissing. So
I understand.
The issue is if they could allow people with multiple properties to offset losses arising from one property, from profit arising from another property, that would be fair. But dealing with each property as a separate item is the only challenge there.
Now, income exemption of any person, foreigner or local investors that own businesses size of $2 million, processing, for instance, agricultural goods or commercial farming. And there's this amendment that has been made now for local investors from 5, I think, to 2 million, and for foreigners from about 15 to 10. How is that going to impact on business going forward? Do you have any qualms with that?
I think that is to really promote investment, especially in the free zones and industrial parks, and of course to create employment. As you realize, this is an update from the amendments that were introduced last year, because last year it was 15 million for foreign investors and 5 million for citizens. That has been lowered from 15 to 10 million for foreign investors and from 5 to 2 million for citizens. And the exemption period has been increased. In last year, it was the amendments for last year stipulated 5 years. That has been extended to 10 years. All that is aimed at incentivizing people to invest in the industrial parks and free zones and to create employment. Now, it goes ahead. Actually, the amendment is also in line with the Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, because it's one of the conditions for you to benefit from the exemption if you are investing in commercial farming and agro-processing is that at least 70% of your raw materials should be sourced locally if they are available locally, and that your workforce must be at least 60% citizens. Yeah.
Let's talk about the issue of defining a citizen now. Another amendment. There's also controversy there on if I am a Ugandan, and then there's this guy is an Ethiopian or Kenyan or South Sudanese, and we also all want to invest here. Now there's a problem with defining who a citizen is. Now there's this new amendment, and people would like to know the implication if it passes in its current form. What does it mean?
Yeah, as you realize, our laws did not have a definition for citizen. Now, the proposed amendments, in the proposed amendments, all the laws, income tax, VAT, excise duty, and stamp duty laws are defining a citizen. And a citizen is defined as either an individual who is a resident of a partner state, as in a partner state that is a state that belongs to the East African community. And if it's a legal entity, a citizen is an incorporated entity in which at least 51% of the shareholders are individuals who are residents of a partner state. This is in line with the ESC protocol, the treaty, because the treaty provides for non-discrimination between goods, services, and persons from partner states. So, because the law originally was not defining citizen, you would ordinarily read citizen to mean a holder of a Ugandan passport or national ID. And that would be contradictory to the letter and spirit of the East African Community Treaty, which provides for non-discrimination. So this definition of citizen comes to clarify and remove that ambiguity. That means that somebody from Kenya that meets the necessary investment requirements can actually come and invest here and benefit from the available relief provided for in the new amendment.
Have East African countries followed suit? Have you checked to see whether the same amendments have been made to mean or to define a citizen in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda? Can a Ugandan actually, if these amendments are passed as is, and we are always the first to receive, majority of the business community, coming to invest here, because we are that open, even before these amendments are passed. I believe there are, foreign investors who are here and benefiting from Uganda's, good investors policies. Is this happening across the region? Because we passed these budgets, I think, almost at the same time, but there's a way the arrangement is changed, of course.
Yeah, it is not practicable right now to say whether the other partner states will reciprocate this, because, as you know, our bills come out in April and they are debated, and by the time the budget is read, they are already law. On the other hand, the other partner states will read their budget and then issue the bills for debate by their parliaments and to be passed into law. So because we have not yet had any opportunity of reviewing their bills, we do not know whether they have provisions that reciprocate this. But hopefully they are also defining a citizen in the same way, so that if you also qualify in terms of requirements in their jurisdictions, then you can be able to benefit from similar reliefs and exemptions in the different jurisdictions within the community.
I see a lot of controversy there. We're running out of time, David, on these tax issues. But now, lastly, the registration of premises by for those with goods like manufacturing, they call excisable goods. What does this mean and the implication on business going forward? I
think the background to that is because government plans to introduce what are called digital taxi stamps.
Yes.
There is a feeling that these manufacturers and other dealers in excisable goods are not paying their fair share of excise duty to government. So by introducing digital tax stamps, then government will have proper visibility on what is happening at every premise where excisable goods are manufactured or imported or supplied. So the registration is for in preparation for those implementation of the digital taxi stamps. Manufacturers had a lot of misgivings because they were looking at the cost of buying the equipment and the tax stamps. From what we have seen from the Uganda Manufacturers Association, government has undertaken actually to buy the equipment and the stamps and implement over the first year, effective 1st July 2019. And then do a review 1 year after to see how it is all working.
And these manufacturers have to apply, manufacturers and importers have to apply annually. Thank you very much, David. We're running out of time, and we definitely keep getting back to you to try and understand some of these amendments and tax issues as usual for you to understand in case you are in business, you are in rentals, you are in importation, you are a manufacturer. These are very, very critical for you to understand. This is The Link. you.